Hey guys, it's Chloe, and today I am here with a brand new video. And today I am here with the lovely M.C.V. Egan for an interview specifically centered around her book, The Bridge of Deaths. Just for people who may not know your books or may be unfamiliar with the genre, can you explain a little bit about what you write in different genres?
I'm focusing on The Bridge of Deaths. I write women's fiction, but The Bridge of Deaths is historical, more fact than fiction. And it comes in an original version that has over 200 footnotes, and in an edited version, a revised version that is more of novel form. And it revolves around a real plane crash in 1939 in pre-World War II Denmark, 15 days before Hitler invaded Poland. And the era was so rife with intrigue that the story itself is very... It's a mystery in and of itself, and the more I dug, the more mysterious it became. So it's historical fiction pre-World War II.
Now you mentioned this to me earlier when I saw you. You said this is more factual as opposed to a novel?
Yes, it has over 200 footnotes because I'm not a trained historian, and I was really afraid that people would think I was making things up. And I started doing my research before you could find a lot of it online. Some of the things in the book you can find online. There are quite a few archives that are still not online. But I point out to readers exactly where I found the data.
And you said that professors like to use this because of?
Yes, history. I have developed a nice rapport following with people that teach history, that are involved with history. I've had some really nice interaction with actual historians. I made very few mistakes. One that anybody can catch is the very pistol in the plane is a flare gun to ask for help. And at the time when I was doing all my research, it wasn't like today you can Google that and pull it out. But anything that's hard fact historical cannot be disproven.
When did you start doing the research for this book?
I started the research in 1993.
Oh, wow.
And I researched a lot for about 18 years. Because in those days it was not as easy to get access to a lot of the information, and traveling to countries, taking breaks, is getting jobs to make money, so I got the money to travel to research.
Did you do the research and the writing side by side, or start with both?
I did much more research than writing in the beginning. The original manuscripts never got used because I had thought I could pull it off being 100% factual, and then I realized I did need that fictional narrative to pull in readers so that it wouldn't be like this sort of tedious 100% sort of history textbook.
Would you consider this novel version then to be historical fiction in that case?
Well, they're both. I mean, that has the same data as this one, except I didn't include the footnotes because now that I had a following, the footnotes are in my website. If anybody reading that is like, nah, this can't be, they can look it up. The brunt of the data is in appendices in the back.
Okay.
But it is written in all narrative form. So you're going to get the same information from this one as you're going to get from that one, but if you're meticulous and you're really into history, then you're going to like this. Lawyers like this one a lot.
Really?
I've gotten nice emails from lawyers going, I'm not sure you proved your case.
For this book, you took inspiration from the plane crash that you said your grandfather was in the plane crash?
Yes. My grandfather was a biochemical engineer for Standard Oil of New Jersey, and that his life always intrigued me because he was fascinating for an era where people weren't as well traveled. He was very well traveled, so I grew up in not just my household, but my grandmother's, my aunts, with paintings and books and so on that had his name. He died 20 years before I was born, so even though I didn't know him, it's like I always sort of wanted to know him. And even though, I was born into a family that no longer had this person, I sort of missed him. But the most intriguing part about him was his death in faraway Denmark. So when I started researching, he wasn't the only intriguing one. All the men on board that plane, because in those days, flights were not like today. And they all had very interesting stories, and the easiest one to follow was Anthony Crossley, a British member of Parliament. So it's not really an inspiration, it's telling the story of who they were, how they died and how questionable the fire in the plane was, and everything else, the jurisdictional fight, even the investigation about the fire was left a lot of open questions.
It's the whole event itself that's very intriguing to you about how it happened.
Very intriguing.
Now, it is centered, the real life event is a plane crash, and you mentioned that this piece, a couple days before, there was another plane
4
incident.
days before, there was an incident with the same airline. Now, airlines then weren't what they are today. This was British Airways Ltd., which is one of several companies that merged to create what we now know as British Airways. And in this British Airways Ltd., 4 days before in Paris, they had a fire on a plane. So they knew exactly, this is a Lockheed Electra 10A, the fire had been in a 14A, which are the ones that usually caught on fire. The 10As did not.
Okay.
But on a nice note, not related to my story, but that people love, this is the same kind of aircraft that Amelia Earhart flew. So they knew where the fire extinguishers and so were located. The pilot says, I sent the co-pilot back because I noticed in the reflection cockpit that there was a fire. Now, the guy had the fire extinguisher right there. Why didn't he grab it? If he went back to look at a fire and you're trained, you grab a fire extinguisher. So that's one of the many discrepancies in so many things.
Would you say that the research for the original crash event that you were writing this book on, would you say that you also took research from this event as well?
Oh, absolutely. I was just in Denmark actually a few months ago, because since it is over 75 years ago, now all the files have to be open. And so this last time, I was given special permission as a relative to look at files before the 75-year mark, which is how I did the research for the book. But this time, I was able to access all files that were from that era. So I looked at every single incident, and mine is particularly intriguing. My file is fatter than all the others, and I had the people in the Danish National Archives going nuts because there were files missing that I could show them pictures of in my website and so on. I'm like, no, but these things exist. So I might have to go back soon if they find what I was looking for. But yes, I've looked at that one both in the British Airways file and in newspapers files and Reuters from Paris, because I also speak French, and also other crashes in Scandinavia of the era.
See, I wasn't aware that there was the 75-year rule before it becomes...
I think in America it's a 50-year rule. The 75-year rule is to protect the innocent or the guilty. And so the 75-year rule with all this historical data is, that's why I think today you see so many World War II movies, is because people can access these files that had been sealed. So like just a few years ago, there was that one movie with Tom Cruise about trying to assassinate Hitler. So
I don't remember the title of it,
Valkyrie, I think it was called. But the thing is, that one will be interesting because those files aren't open yet. Those haven't hit the 75-year rule. Now, you can go through a bunch of research channels, ask for permits like I did, and access them earlier sometimes. But very often you get them redacted and so on. It's like top secret. I even opened a couple that had these red British seals that said top secret in the British National Archives.
Now my own personal curiosity, what was the process of trying to be able to look at those files being a relative?
Well, one of the funny quirks about having been born in Mexico is that a Mexican birth certificate, even if your grandparents are not alive, sort of gives you the pedigree. So it doesn't give you just parents, it also gives you grandparents.
Okay.
So I had an actual birth certificate that could prove I am this man's granddaughter.
Okay.
So that was, I don't know for anybody else, but for me it was a very easy way to prove that I was related. And then, some of the archives I used were small enough that it was more personal contact letters. Others, it would be a process that even if you're not related, one of the most interesting ones I went to was at the British Parliament, you know, the Houses of Parliament. And that one, the reader room, they only take 8 readers a day, and you have to go with a, you know, special date that you get the full day. You go in through the back, not through the front. You get frisked, scanned, everything. You go through this spiral staircase, and you go to this tiny reading room that makes you feel like you are in like pre-World War II or World War I. They have funny old phones that ring funny and everything. And it's amazing what they give you access to, and they literally have a staff that your runners, like if you find something that you say, I want this, you don't go to the actual library, they go down for you and they bring it up.
That's amazing.
There's a lot. It's amazing when you start going to archives. That's why I dedicated the book to archivists everywhere, because it's amazing the extraordinary work these people do in every realm. It's really neat.
So this next question is more about your writing process, and I know we did touch about your research, but some people, personally me, I like to just go ahead and start writing. Obviously you did a ton of research for this, but did you also sort of start to outline the novel as well, or once you had your research, did you start writing?
I had to, you know, because it's historical, I had to go in some sort of chronology. The narrative fictional part, with the 3 fictional characters researching the actual crash, that I could be more of a pantser. So I found that in that one, I did juggle some of the scenes. Like I wrote them and I thought they would be a scene for a certain piece of information, and then I found it fit better in another. So this one was very much a combination of both. Did you, for the actual, the historical part, did you create any sort of physical timeline so you could see? I did. I had to. As a matter of fact, I had a huge bulletin board.
Oh, wow.
And I just went like scene by scene, because it was getting too confusing, because it wasn't just the people on board the plane. Then you start researching the people that were actually investigating the crash and seeing what happened to them, where they ended up. And there were just so many people, and there were so many conflicting, because I went to archives in the UK, I went to archives in Denmark, and I had to glue everything together. And Denmark has actually 4 different sets. That's why I know some were missing this last time when I went to the Danish National Archives. And it was the first time I got to be in a big reader room. You know, before it felt very cloak and dagger. When I had a special permit, they put me in a special room, and it was just me, and I had to ask permission if I photocopied anything. Another archive, I was with the boarding board police, and I would just sit there in a little room, and I wasn't allowed to take anything in but pads and pencils. You know, so it would, and I wasn't allowed to photocopy anything. So I had to copy a lot of the data by hand, which I now own in photocopies, which is pretty cool. And it's it can be pretty gruesome, because you get to see the pictures of all the corpses after they've been autopsied, the reports. It's not just the plane, you know, in order to investigate. And I break it all down in the book with these fictional characters researching it. So yeah, huge timeline. It was very necessary.
So I know we are focusing on The Bridge of Death, but you also have a couple of other books as well. And is there anything right now that you can let us know that you're possibly working on?
Yes, I'm really excited about my novella, Death of a Sculptor, which is in 16 different voices. And I've had very nice feedback. And everybody was very curious about the dead sculptor. So I am actually almost finished with Bruce sculpting a life. I mean, finished before edits. And so it's been really exciting to take a character that I already understood. It's something I had never done before, and give him so much more meat. It's been really, really interesting. And I'm hoping that goes so well that I will also add a 3rd book to that short read series. So that's what I'm working on. And I'm working with an incredible writing coach. Her name is Prudy Taylor Board. She's the author of 101 Tips on Writing Fiction. And she's got something like 27 historical books published and 4 or 5 novels. She has a journalism background for both newspaper, magazines, and TV. So it's really exciting to work with someone that is so professional and that is so knowledgeable. So, you know, the entire writing process is growth. You're hoping that everything you do is better. And, you know, sometimes you have to take something you did and say, I love the story, but I want to work on it. Especially in the indie world, there's, you know, no shame in revising and re-releasing. So I'm working on that too. It's a growth process, and I hope to really succeed someday, but I have no problem learning and going slowly about it. I'm a very patient person.
Well, then my last question is, because we are promoting The Bridge of Death, are you going to be at any other events promoting this book, or do you have any other types of promotion that we can look forward to for this book?
If anybody contacts me, I'm always willing to start a promotional thing. What I did, a lot of times I do have some, since that one has the pocket watch and the cover, what I do that people can look for, I don't have a specific date for it right now because there's some stuff going on in my private life, but I do give away sometimes really cool pocket watches, not a gold one like the one, the one in the cover, and not damaged either. The ones I give away work. So that's, you will be able to find here and there at, promotionals.
Thank you so much for this interview.
Really
and
fun to...
Down below, I will leave your website and links to where we can buy your books in case anybody is interested.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I just said, if you're interested in any of M.C.V. Egan's work, it will be linked in the description below for you to check out. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!